Hello and welcome to Musical Musings, a place where musicians at St. Thomas the Apostle Hollywood muse about music. Today's musician is Courtney Smith, a lifelong musician and alto in the St. Thomas Choir. Hello everyone. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Courtney Smith. She is an alto in the St. Thomas Choir. Courtney, welcome. Thank you for doing this.
Hi.
Today we're going to start with the question I always start with, which is how long have you been a parishioner at St. Thomas?
I've been a parishioner at St. Thomas for about 10 years now. So I actually remember there was a certain football game that I was watching, and the occasion of that was actually 10 years ago this fall. So that's always a way that I can kind of anchor of when I started coming to St. Thomas.
Oh, wow. So you've been there for 10 years total. How many years have you lived in LA?
I've been in Los Angeles for 13 years. So I remember that I started coming to St. Thomas because I just need a little bit more foundation in my life. And I grew up in the Episcopal Church, and I just kind of needed to refocus on things that brought me joy and happiness, in my life previously. And I figured, well, let's try going back to church.
So what brought you to LA in the first place?
I came to Los Angeles because I work in entertainment. My bachelor degree is in music and music entertainment, music industry, and public relations. So my first several jobs in Los Angeles were as a television publicist, and more recently, I'm more in a creative content post-production role.
And you've been doing that ever since you moved to LA? You've been working on that job?
Yeah. I've always been working in entertainment, and I've been working in audio and dubbing for the past 4 or 5 years now.
So you've been at St. Thomas for 10 years. How long have you been in the St. Thomas Choir?
My first year in the St. Thomas Choir was Jeffrey's first year. So we were both new to this together. I'd had a few people in the choir who knew that I played the flute and knew that I had music in my background, and would kind of soft approach me about joining the choir, but I just kind of smiled and waved and just kind of got out of it every time the conversation came up. And I say that I finally ran out of polite excuses. And so then I was like, well, what am I actually doing on a Thursday night during rehearsal? Nothing that I couldn't pull myself away from. So I figured, let's try something new. And I looked forward to this as being a new outlet for me for music, because I still this is my real music outlet that I have in Los Angeles, and I've kind of dabbled in a few things here and there, but just timing and scheduling and availability, I haven't exactly found something that was a good fit for me, for flute playing or instrumental. And I figured that this would be a good way for me to try something new, learn something new, and kind of reconnect with music in a way.
Well, you mentioned the flute a few times actually, and so I imagine that's got to be a big part of your musical background. So what is your musical background? How did you come to music, and where has it taken you?
Well, I studied flute in college. It was just the thing that I was always passionate about, and the thing that I was always it was probably the first thing that I was really good at. When I was a kid, starting in band, I started playing the clarinet, but my best friend played the flute because her mother had also played it, and I really wanted to sit by my friend. And so the band director said, well, you'll have to take the summer and take some lessons and learn how to play, and as long as you're good enough, then I'll let you switch instruments in the fall. And I just really took that to heart, and I practiced every single day. I was kind of old enough to take a little bit of ownership, and it was the first thing that was really mine, that I did for myself, and I had a goal that I wanted to sit next to my friend. And I just really enjoyed it so much, and just really kept up with it. It became a really focusing event in my life. And then as my family moved from Georgia, where we lived when I was a kid, to Indiana, the music and playing the flute was another thing that I could jump in the band there. I could be in the marching band. I made all of my friends that were in band and music related things. And that was really what kind of gave me some focus. And I knew that I wanted to work in entertainment, but not in an arts nonprofit capacity, that I wanted to work in the entertainment industry.
So music really set you on a path that may seem unexpected to most, but it makes sense actually the way that you articulated that. So you said that you've lived in Georgia and Indiana. Where are you from originally?
Most recently, I'm from Columbus, Ohio. That's where I went to university, and I went to Capital University in Columbus, Ohio, this tiny little liberal arts school next to the Ohio State University. And I lived there for 7 years. I went to high school that was in Indiana, lived in Georgia before that. My family also lived in Louisiana, and I was born in Texas. So I've lived a few different places. We've traveled around a lot, and it's nice. My parents are back in Georgia now, kind of living their retirement dreams. So we kind of have decided posthumously that Georgia is like where our family is from, because we kind of keep boomeranging back to the Georgia area.
Wow, so you're really from everywhere.
Yeah. I'm not really from any one place. I'm from so many places. I've lived in Los Angeles longer than I've lived anywhere else. I've lived in my apartment longer than I've lived anywhere else. So,
wow, so you're really an Angelino.
Really, this is home for me, but it's not where I was born and raised.
It's the case for a lot of people, in a big city like LA. People move here and it becomes their home. Are you planning on staying here, for the rest of your adult life?
I mean, I think that, what do they say? Like, the best laid plans, they don't come that easily. So I've been able to find success. I've been able to live a life that's fulfilled and prosperous. In the time of COVID, all bets are off. So I think to make long-term plans at the moment is a little short-sighted, but I'm just kind of living the days as they come, and I like living here in Los Angeles. I hope that if I ever choose to move, that it's on my terms. But I love living here. There's so many great opportunities and so many great people that I've been able to meet, and I'm very happy to be here in Los Angeles.
Well, great. Well, we hope you stay here a very long time and stay in the St. Thomas Choir. Speaking of the choir, so you are originally a flute player or a flautist, some might call you, and also now a member of the choir. And you've been for what, like six-ish, 7-ish years?
That sounds about right. 5 years, 6 years? You probably remember the exact date of your first year as well as I would.
Well, I started
5 years, 6 years, the first year that it was your choir, because you'd been with us for a while before.
Right. Then. I was the organist, and then
yeah.
In 2014 I was made the choir director as well.
Yeah.
So if we joined the same time in that respect, it'd be 2014. So it'd be about 6 years.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember talking to you and encouraging you. So what is it like, to come from a primarily instrumental background as a flute player and then to suddenly sing? What was your experience with singing before, if any, and what's it been like singing in the choir?
My experience with singing before was quite minimal. I had been in an elementary chorus as a kid, just because it was offered. And I didn't do any kind of singing through high school in the choir or any kind of music theater or anything like that. But I've always I like songs, I like music on the radio or whatever, and I can sing just fine. My first real exposure to actually singing in front of people, for a lot of people, is when I was in music school, and that was terrifying to be 18 years old and being an instrumentalist and then having a whole classroom of 20 other people, and the professor wants you to sing this, this line
This for
on the board.
sight reading classes?
Oh my gosh, like that was really
yeah.
hard. It is like, you cannot explain how hard that is unless you've done it. So that was my first experience in learning how to use my voice as an instrument. And one of the great things that really connected to me that my first music theory professor taught was to get us, as young people out of our shells and being uncomfortable, like not singing in front of people. She said, if you can walk, you can run. If you can talk, you can sing. And that really connected with me because I'm also a runner, and I absolutely believe that. Like, you don't have to be fast to be a runner. You just have to try. And if you just try to sing a little bit, maybe it'll get easier and better. And that's something that I've tried to keep a very open mind as I've learned how to sing in this choir, because this was really my first experience really using my voice truly as an instrument and not just a tool to achieve a music theory goal or something like that.
That's really fascinating. Yeah, it's an interesting journey that you've taken, and finding one's voice, even as a musician, sometimes it's a difficult,
oh my gosh, like
trajectory.
I take the lessons that we learn in this choir and I apply that to my flute playing even now, just the different ways that I've learned breath control and phrasing, and the few examples that I've had to accompany a vocalist with me playing flute. It gives me a new perspective, and I think that always learning, always growing, always being open to new things is a good thing.
Well, it's interesting. You talked about breath and phrasing and how that impacts not only your flute playing but also your singing. But you did mention that you're a runner, which also requires a lot of breathing. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about that. Your experience as a runner, because you run marathons quite often, from what I know.
Yeah, I've completed is it 13 marathons so far. I've completed as far away as the Paris Marathon. I was hoping to run the Berlin Marathon this fall, but that's not going to happen. So that race has already been canceled, and all foreseeable future running events have been canceled so far, or they've gone to a virtual run only. So that's a little bit disappointing, but I also appreciate the time to maybe to step back from racing, even though I'm not competitive. I'm just an amateur. I'm just really bad at quitting. It's been nice for me to kind of refocus on what I want out of running next in my life and how I want that to continue, and to what extent.
So running, the marathons, you've done them also locally. The LA Marathon, wasn't that the last one that you ran?
Yeah,
and that was right before the shutdown,
so,
right?
Yeah, so the LA Marathon, I'm not sure how that race was allowed to happen. I'm very thankful and grateful that it did. I was out there supporting one of my teams of runners on the sideline. We had like a cheer station and just all the support, which is just incredible to have like your friends and your family to be there for you on the sideline. It's also very fulfilling to watch runners and to see what it's like to be on the other side, because I think that there's a lot to give back in a sport like this. It's not only just about towing up to the start line and making it to the finish. It's a real group event, even though you're doing a solo mission. And that was just so much fun to watch all of my friends go out there and have a great day and be outdoors and just enjoy everything. The LA Marathon is a really fun event to participate in, even if you're going to just spectate for a little bit.
Yeah, I remember the day we had that marathon. I can't remember if it was the 15th of March or if it was the Sunday before that, but it was not too long before the shutdown.
It was right before. It was the 7th, the 7th or the 9th, I think was the day. Yeah, and it was the Sunday, that Sunday, and then that Wednesday was when President Trump had his first conversation that like things are about to happen, and then within a week from that, everything was shut down.
Right. Yeah, by St. Patrick's Day, everything was.
Yeah, by St. Patrick's Day, everything was closed down.
Yeah.
And I happened to be in Modesto visiting friends for a 2-year-old's birthday party that weekend. And so I just decided to stay in Modesto for a few weeks because I figured the herd was a little bit smaller in a smaller town. I didn't have anything to rush back to Los Angeles for right away because choir had already been canceled. The doors had been closed. Any like run clubs or birthday parties or just social events that I had on the calendar were all canceled. I had a job offer that I was expecting that week that didn't go through, which that's okay. That's life.
It wasn't meant to be. You could look at it that way.
It wasn't meant to be.
Maybe you dodged a bullet.
Yeah, not right now. It wasn't meant to be for right now.
Right. Well, good. So this is the last bit of the interview where I ask if you have anything to say to our friends at St. Thomas while we're away from each other. Is there anything you'd like to share with our friends?
I would like to say that I know we've been reaching out and watching the different Zoom, the live streams of the masses, and I've been there watching too. I love watching our little dog in the background napping away at the altar. And I do miss coming into that beautiful space. I live close by in the neighborhood, so sometimes when I go for a run, I will go by there and just kind of like do a little walkabout. And so I really appreciate that. And I'm sad that we can't be together, but this is all temporary, and we will get back together someday. And I'm looking forward to that day.
Thank you for watching. Please be sure to follow us on social media for upcoming content. Until next time, God bless and take care.